everyone, it's Caity and welcome back to another episode of Straight Up. Before I get into today's topic, I'm feeling very vulnerable today. A lot has happened in my life, and I feel the need to be transparent, or as transparent as I can. I have recently quit 2 jobs. So I had a retail job and then I had a job in the city. And I've quit both of them. And I've started a new one, which is very exciting. So a lot of change is happening in my life. I was very reliant, but I'm also getting the help that I need, which is super important. I don't want to go into it too much, but if you know me, you know that I have been very reliant on a couple of things. And it's basically taken over a lot of my life. So I had to quit a job that I loved and adored because I needed to focus on my health and focus on what was important. And I feel like it's definitely a step in the right direction. But while all of this was happening and while I was, I neglected a lot of things that I'm passionate about and that bring me a lot of joy, i.e. this podcast. I was so proud of it when it came out, and I put so much of my heart and soul into writing these scripts and doing these videos, and I neglected something that I loved, and now I have the time to do it, and I'm so grateful. This truly is my passion project and something that I'm so proud of and put so much effort and time into, and it's a true representation of me and what I want to do for the world, and all I've ever wanted to do was help people. That's it. I'm good at it. I love it. I love doing it. But in order to be able to help others, I need to help myself. So I have prioritized that just recently. And at one point it was kind of scary, but now it feels right. It feels like what I was supposed to do and what I should have been doing all along. But we live and we learn, and I think that this is definitely a step in the right direction. I feel great. I am 1 week sober tomorrow as I'm filming this, and I'm planning to kind of keep that streak going. I don't know if it's going to be forever. So there's a lot going on in my head, but it's good to be transparent, and I feel like I'm in a very good place right now. I'm going to continue doing this because it's important to me. It keeps me sane. I feel like it's very important to be transparent, especially if I'm making these videos about helping people and being honest about myself and my life. I need to continue to do that. So that was something that I really wanted to start off with. And I'm also going to address something else. Yes, I am wearing my pajamas, okay? I am actually going to continue doing most of my podcasts in my pajamas, but I feel like it creates such a safe, comfortable space for myself and for you watching through the screen. Alrighty, let's get on to today's topic, which is negative self-talk. People don't realize how much negative self-talk affects you, the world around you. It affects the way that you talk, you walk. It affects so much of your life. It affects the way that you dress. It affects the way that you speak to yourself and others. It affects your everyday decisions without you realizing. It's such a subconscious thing, but it affects so much of your life. It really does carry through with you. I have not met a single woman or most men that don't suffer with negative self-talk. People are often stuck with it for most, if not the rest of their life. And what I'm going to do today is help you identify that negative self-talk and not get rid of it, but learn how to live with it and maneuver it in a different direction. I kind of want to start with my personal experience with negative self-talk, and I believe it started from a pretty young age. I would say around 12, I was going through an adoption process, and that really affected my confidence in such a negative way. I was also an adolescent going through puberty, and this was the age of like the thinspo on Tumblr as well. There was so many, and there always has been, and I think there always will be with social media, unrealistic expectations, images online that really affected me. And I was like, oh my God, why don't I look like them? Why am I not as talented as them? Is it because I look stupid? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? Like there's so much that contributed to my negative self-talk. I hated everything about myself, absolutely everything. The way that I talked, the way that I dressed, I hated how big my thighs were, I hated my hair, I hated my freckles, I hated my pale skin, I hated everything about myself, like literally everything. I would put myself down a lot constantly. Even like the kids at school would like constantly put me down and poke fun at me and like make jokes about me, whether it was laughing at me or with me. It would honestly replay in my head. Like I would go to bed and be like, oh my God, why would they say that about me? Like, what did I do? Like genuinely, it would actually keep me up at night and I would cry myself to sleep so much. And it definitely contributed to the way that I spoke to myself in a serious manner. And that doesn't mean that people were trying to be nasty, but what it does mean is that it just affected me. If you ask my mom, when I was like 12 to 15, I would literally rip out my entire closet, try on so many outfits, and nothing was ever good enough. Oh my God, that looks so much better on this person, but it looks so stupid on me. It got to the point where I was just like so many mental breakdowns about the way that I looked and so much of just putting myself down. It was more absurd for me to say something nice about myself. If I think back to like when I was 12 to 13, I don't think I could think of like one nice thing that I ever said about myself. I was in competitions for singing a lot. And the first ever musical that I ever got into, I got one of the lead roles. And I did so many competitions for singing when I was like 12 to 15 that I won, or that I got like either second or third place. And even then I still wasn't enough. The thing that I kind of realized as I got older was that it doesn't matter about what everybody else says about you, because they could literally say the nicest things about you constantly, or you could win prizes or be the best in this. And if you don't see it within yourself, you're just not going to see it and you're just going to be miserable. And then, you know, as I got older, it affected my family trips. I got into my first relationship, and as horrible and toxic as that relationship was, I also did horrible and toxic things too, i.e. saying to my boyfriend, if Kendall Jenner walked through the door, would you leave me for her? Like, don't say that shit. Just don't. Like, I would constantly berate my ex-boyfriend about this and be like, what if this person came up to you at a party and did this and like, rah, 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 and like, I feel like I'm not alone in that as well. Like, I feel like that's a very common thing for girlfriends to do, but it is toxic and you shouldn't do that. Don't do that, Pookie. When I went on like family trips and stuff, when they would go to the pool, I would like sit in the hotel room. Or I remember one time my family all went to, where was it? I think it was Yeppoon. And I had seen like a video of my body, and I did not participate in all of the cool slides and everything that we did. Or was it Manly? I think it was Manly. I didn't participate in all of the cool things that they did because I was so worried about the way that my body looked. Granted, I was 12 years old, but besides the point. That happened a lot. And yeah. But yeah, people just straight up stopped wanting to be around me. And I think that really hit me. I used to constantly like say to my mom or my best friend, Nikki, why don't people want to be around me? Like, why don't they want to hang out with me? And I remember one of my friends saying to me once, like, it's because you're just so negative all the time. You just negatively talk about yourself and your life and all this stuff. And at the time I was like, ugh, who is this bitch? Who is she? But now I kind of realize how true that is, because if you think about it, if you have two people in a room and one of those people is so positive and so outgoing and says so many nice things about themselves and gets up and takes care of themselves and brushes their hair and does all of these things, and then you have somebody on the other end of the spectrum that like hates themselves and like constantly goes on about how they hate themselves and makes all these self-deprecating jokes and like, you know, doesn't take care of themselves mentally and physically, who are you going to naturally gravitate towards? I think naturally as humans, we kind of gravitate more so towards positivity. I literally became my own worst enemy. I hated myself. I hated everything about myself. I constantly told myself all the time how much I hated myself, why I hated myself, why everyone hated me, why Everybody didn't want to be around me, hated my guts, hated the way that I dressed, hated this, hated my hair, hated that stupid line on my eyebrow, hated the scar up here next to my lip. Like, everyone hated everything about me, and you could not tell me otherwise. And that just wasn't true. There was so many people around me that loved me and cared for me. But because I hated myself, that was all I could focus on. I could only focus on people that hated me all of the time. And I still do it. It doesn't go away. But you can make it so that you can revert your brain into leaning more so towards the positive thing. That negative self-talk and that negative connotation of yourself and your life, like I said, it won't go away. It's always going to be there. You're always going to have the angel and devil on your shoulder. It's not about getting rid of it entirely. It's about leaning it towards the positive and being like, oh my God, I hate the way that I dress today, or this top doesn't look good on me. Instead of just constantly like focusing on that, maybe go, oh, okay, well, I've already changed and I actually like this about this top. Even though it doesn't look the most flattering on me, you know, I like XYZ about this top. You know what I mean? After everything, going around in circles, using substances, going around in circles about why I hated myself, I was fed up. I was really tired. I was really tired of constantly living in this body and mind that I just hated. And I created that world for myself. I created this reality that was so negative. I didn't want to like leave Earth, but to me, there was just no other option because I was just always going to be this way. I was always going to hate myself, and I was never going to do anything good with my life, and I was never going to do anything good for myself. I honestly wanted to rip my own skin off and just start all over again. Genuinely, I did. I hated that I had no direction. I hated that I had no future. I hated that everybody hated me. Wasn't true, but I convinced myself that it was. I hated that I couldn't fit into a size 8 jean and some other girl at school could easily do that. I hated everything. Everything that I could possibly find about myself, I somehow hated and made it a point to hate myself. Verbally, mentally, and it was exhausting. It was so exhausting not only to be around, but to live with. To live in my own mind that was just this house that I created that was just so negative. Other people were just so beautiful without makeup. Other people were just so beautiful, and I was the only ugly girl in the world. Other people had the best bodies, no matter what size they were, but I was the only girl in the world whose thighs got huge when I sat down. I convinced myself at some point that I was the ugliest girl in the world in every single way. Everything about myself was ugly and horrible. I just hated it. And I hated being like that. And then one day it kind of clicked. And I realized that I was the only person that thought this way about myself. I'm not saying as a whole, but for me as a person, no one really thought this way about me. Or if they did, none of my business. I don't really care anymore. But if they did, like, it's not going to be that extreme to the extreme that I make it. Nobody looks at me and thinks that I'm the ugliest person in the world. Sure, they probably look at me and go, oh, her face is a bit funny looking, or she has no eyebrows. But they don't look at me and go, holy f***, this is the ugliest girl in the world. And if they do, f*** you. I was the only one that felt this way about myself. I was the only one that was saying these horrible things to this extent about myself. Your mind is the only place that you will ever truly live. You have a physical home, you have a physical workplace, but your mind is the place that you cannot escape. You can escape home, you can escape work, you can leave those places. You can't ever leave your mind. And I had trashed it. I had made it a horrible place to live, and I didn't know what to do. I was at a crossroads. That is the first thing that you need to identify, that you are the one that's causing this, whether you like it or not. Obviously, there's so many, like I've said before, there's so many external factors, of course, but there's little things that you can do to be able to stop that negative self-talk when it does happen. I tried to imagine a world in which one day I didn't hate myself. And I was all of these things that I dreamed of doing and being? What would she look like? What would she wear? How would she speak to others? How would she treat people? How would she carry herself within day-to-day life? What does she look like? Who is this person? I haven't met her. I don't know who she is. I can't even imagine her right now. That is what you need to figure out. If you are at a crossroads right now and you don't know what to do as far as negative self-talk goes, you meet so many different versions of yourself in this lifetime. What does that person look like? How do they treat others? How do they treat themselves? And just think for a moment. It doesn't need to be a realistic thing. Just think for 1 second. What does that person do? How do they wake up in the morning? The smallest things. What do they do? Hello. Sorry. What does that person look like to you? Now that you've identified that you talk to yourself negatively, what are those next steps? Of course, step 1, like I said, envision who that person is. Who is this person that is so positive? Who is your dream person that you want to be? What do they do? What do they do for their career? What do they study? Do they just bite the bullet and study or go work that position that they've always wanted to do? Have they posted that video? Have they reached out to producers to write a new song? Have they bought a new software so that they are able to make this gaming thing that you've always wanted to make? Have they taken up craft? Have they taken up coloring? Do they make candles? Have they started a business of their own? What does this person do on a day-to-day basis? How do they wake up? What do they eat when they wake up? How do they dress? How do they speak to people? Do they give money to the homeless? Do they contribute to charities? Do they do volunteering work? Do they go surfing? Like, what does this person do in your dream world? What does the ideal version of you do? This sounds a little bit crazy, but a way that I kind of do it a lot is I will sit down and literally sit and watch in my mind. I will sit down and I'll envision in my mind or even speak out loud, me talking to the ideal version of myself. How do they respond? What do they say to me? What would they say to me? What would they say to me? What steps would they tell me to do to be able to get to the position that they are today? It doesn't even need to be realistic. It just needs to be a motivator. Don't make it realistic. When you're writing these things down, don't be like, oh, but that'll never happen. You don't know that. You haven't even tried yet. Envision it, because it may not be who you want to be, but it could be putting you in the direction of the best version of you, whatever that may look like. These visions will most definitely change as well. 9 times out of 10, what we want for ourselves isn't what is best for us. But it's a step in the right direction to be able to envision that person. Start there. Start small. Sit down for half an hour, 5 minutes even. Write it in your notes app on your phone on the way to work. What does this person look like? Everything. List it. Details. I don't even care if it's 2 sentences or 2 pages long. Write it down. If you write it down and put it in a place where you are able to access it, if you're feeling down or negative about yourself, if you read that thing, it will 9 times out of 10 make you feel better. Go back to it all the time whenever you need it. That is the whole purpose of writing it down. I have literally written it down in my notes app on my phone. I have it here. And I got ChatGPT to write it, by the way, which is also something that you can do. ChatGPT manifesting is still valid. And I will not take any other answer, okay? I have a notes app that is literally envisioning my dream life. ChatGPT wrote this, but that doesn't matter, okay? It still makes it a thing. If you want to use ChatGPT, which you don't have to do, when you get that vision of who you are and envisioning your dream life and your dream person, then ask the question, okay, what steps do I need to take to get there? Because it actually gave me steps to building my dream life as well, which is actually really cool. And definitely a motivator as well to be able to positively reinforce that action and that feeling within yourself. I saw that on TikTok, by the way. Best thing ever. ChatGPT is my best friend. ChatGPT and me are like this. Step 2, affirmations. Do not click off. Don't do it. Hear me out. Affirmations don't need to always be spiritual. And people are always like, oh, affirmations never work. I tried affirmations, they just don't work. You didn't give them enough time. I'm being dead serious. It sounds stupid to literally sit there and be like, I am healthy, I am rich, I am happy, I am so rich in life. It's hard at first to sit there and be like, I am beautiful, because the first thing that you're going to say back to yourself when you say that out loud is, no, I'm not. That's the whole point of this. I hate myself. What do you mean? I remember when I first started doing affirmations, I said out loud for the first time, like, I love myself. And then the first thing that came into my mind was, no, you don't. You hate yourself. It seems stupid, but it does help. You are externally battling the internal thoughts. That was deep. That was really, really deep. Anyways, affirmations. You can look them up on Pinterest. There's so many on TikTok. Whatever it is that you want to do. For me, I'm manifesting money and wealth right now. So for me, when I wake up in the morning, I say, I am rich. I am good at saving. I am good at investing. I love to invest. Money flows to me freely. I love money. Money loves me. Things like that. It seems stupid at first. Give it like a week. Journaling. This was something that I talked about just before, but you truly don't realize how important it is and how helpful it is until you start doing it. It's hard to get into and it's not for everybody, but journaling. Journaling is a really great tool to be able to put your internal thoughts onto a page externally. Basically for you to read it and see how ridiculous it is. I'm not joking. I write down a lot in my phone if I'm overthinking or feeling a certain way about myself. Whatever it may be, no matter how ridiculous it is, I write it down. And a lot of times I will look back at it and be like, oh, that's actually really dumb of me to say that, because it's not true. However, it's not for everybody. Not everybody thinks to do it in the moment, or not everybody has time to journal every night. But if you ever get the chance to, it is a really great tool to be able to put your thoughts down on paper and genuinely just see how stupid they are. Okay, number 4, a good support system around you. This is often overlooked because for a lot of people, having a friend group that jokes about certain things that you do, sometimes that's healthy and that's a really good way. Like, I joke with my friends about stupid shit that we do all the time, but learn to know when it becomes laughing at you or laughing with you. Because if you are around a group of people constantly that are putting you down or making you the laughing stock of the group, which has happened to me a lot of times, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to feel a certain way about yourself. And if you ever externalize it to them, they're just going to shoot you straight back down. Trust me, I know from experience. If you have a group of friends that are constantly putting you down or putting themselves down, sometimes it's better to distance yourself from them, because there are so many people out there that will validate you and will love you and will point you in the right direction if you ever feel negatively about yourself. I didn't really find that friend until a bit later on in life, and she's awesome and I love her, and she validates everything. Well, not everything. She's honest with me when she needs to be, but she validates me in a way that is amazing. So remember that the people that you surround yourself with often is a massive indicator on how successful you're going to be on this journey of trying to redirect this negative self-talk. These are things that have helped me personally upon reflection. And this was a video that was so important to me. Trying to redirect that negative self-talk isn't always easy, and it looks very different for everybody. There's a lot of foolproof methods. What I do may not work for you. If you want to go on this journey of trying to eliminate this negative self-talk or trying to redirect it, I don't like to say eliminate, redirecting your negative self-talk. Sometimes you need to find the way that works best for you. And the things in this video may not be what works for you, or it might. And that's great. Redirecting your negative self-talk into positive reinforcement for yourself is a great tool to have, and you can learn from a lot of people. So if you have anything that I've missed or anything that has worked for you that hasn't ever really been mentioned, put it in the comments. I'd love to know. I love having this conversation about what works for people. Please remember that this is a journey. It's going to take a little bit more time than you think. And It's not going to happen overnight. You're not just going to wake up feeling amazing tomorrow, or you might. That's great, but that's not realistic. You need to keep at it. And you may fall and you may need to try again. Only thing that you need to remember is to just keep trying. Remember to celebrate your small wins when it comes to these kinds of things, because that's also a positive reinforcement thing. Celebrating, little bits and pieces of your journey, because it's not all this one big thing. It doesn't just happen. You don't eat all of the cake in one day. Not everybody can eat an entire cake in one day, okay? I can though. Bit of an issue, but I can. That's all I have for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any suggestions on what I should do for the next video, please leave it down below. I love you, stay positive, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.